Okay, we're out here at the field now. I left the canopy off just so that way it's easy to make adjustments and stuff, and we can see what we're doing. But anyways, the first thing I'm going to do, I've set the cyclic gains to 60 and 60 on aileron and elevator. And the first thing you want to do is just get it up and check for any oscillations in a hover, any bounce, anything like that. So we'll go and do that now. And one thing too, just to keep in mind, you know, always double check your cyclic corrections, your cyclic gyro corrections. Okay, so we pull that up into a hover. Everything at the slow head speed looks pretty good. Had a slight aileron oscillation at the slow head speed, so I'm going to kick it up into the high head speed. Okay. Don't appear to have any bounce or anything like that. We're just going to start going out here. The way that I check the elevator gyro gain, so we're going to come across here in forward flight and just nudge the elevator. Okay, you can see how it's actually bouncing back right there. So I'm going to do a roll now. Okay, it actually held okay through that, but if you noticed in the video, it actually kind of recentered itself. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and land. I'm going to change both gyro gains to 70 and idle up. Okay. Sorry, I got a slow spool up here. Okay. And I'm going to do that same test again. You can see the ailerons are quite a bit crisper as well, even just bouncing them back and forth there. There we go. There it's starting to hold. As I go through loops, no oscillations, and I'm barely moving the stick in this loop, so the gyro is actually holding it through that. So do some more rolls. Check for bounce here. Okay, so the gain seems good. I'm not getting any oscillations, any funky wiggles or wobbles and things. So now we're going to test that feed forward mix that we talked about. So to do this, you're going to put it, and you're going to have to do this both ways on a windy day. Put it in a hover and climb straight out, come straight down, come up, come down. You can see how the model is staying level through this whole thing. I'm not actually touching the cyclic, so I have my hands off now. I don't know if you can see in the video or not. And so that means that the feed forward is actually set correctly. Real quick, what I'm going to do is we're going to put the feed forward off so you can see what that'll do. Okay, so we're back here at the bench, and I've got it to swash set basic, and if you hit the negative button, that'll actually get you to the feed forward mix a little quicker. Right now I had it set at 5, and like I said, there was no interactions. I wasn't seeing a lot of angle change at all. There might be a little drift with the wind, but that's what it is. So we're going to take that down to 0 just so you can see exactly what we're correcting for there. Okay, so now we've got that feed forward mix set to 0. And I'm going to go ahead and take my hand, off the cyclic again, just so you can see what it's going to do. So now I climb up. See how the nose is actually moving around a lot. And we're kind of slowly drifting down the field. And if we were to actually try and do a roll like this, you'd notice the nose would, see how it's kind of corkscrewing a little bit. So that's what we were correcting for with the feed forward. I'm not going to go to 10, but it would be the exact opposite. Instead of pulling up and pushing down, you would see it actually fight the correction. Okay, so I put the feed forward mix back to 5, which just happens to work well on the Raptor. And I also lowered the hovering gain. So in my slow head speed here, I went ahead and took the gain from, I think I went up to 70 on my aerobatics. I took it back down to 50, started at 60, took it down to 50 for the slow head speed, which is fairly normal. The slower head speeds, you're gonna have to run a slightly lower gain. I'm going kicking into idle up. The next one we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about eye gain. Now eye gain is actually like your heading hold gain almost. So what you're gonna do to test this is in big loops and stuff, we noticed it was holding pretty good before, but I'm gonna pump the pitch at the top. See that little oscillation? See it just a little. So that means when I'm pumping the pitch and I'm just holding that stick, that it's got just a little, it could use a little more eye gain. Okay, so I've got the eye gain up pretty high right now. I don't know if I'll even be able to get out of a hover with it like this, but we'll see. Basically what you're gonna look for is you wanna turn the eye gain up. Spool up here. You wanna get the eye gain up as high as you possibly can without getting oscillations. So I'm gonna go ahead and click it into idle up. Okay, see how much bounce I'm getting? That's not me. So clearly 170, that's a lot of gain, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put it into forward flight again. Slow, because if the eye gain is too high, this will possibly, but I'm gonna bump the thing and you can see it's oscillating pretty bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and land. And I'm gonna put that number down to 120. Okay, I've taken the eye gain down to 120, which I just happen to know is the number, as much eye gain as this Raptor can tolerate with this setup. Just go out and fly it. And what I'm gonna look for is the reaction that it has to the collective pitch. So I'm gonna come around here, and at the top of a loop, see there's no oscillations now. And just bounce the pitch. And you see how the nose is staying level through that whole thing. I'm gonna do a roll. Even pirouetting, I can sit there and pump it. There's no bounce, and through everything, it's staying pretty darn level. So I'm starting to do some pirouetting stuff here just to try and get a little bit of a feel for it. And what I'm looking for now is just any sort of oscillations or control feels. Okay, see right there, in that flip, what I noticed, let's do another fast flip. See, I'm getting a slight oscillation in the flip. As I'm coming through, it's bouncing just a little bit. So next what we want to work with is a control gain. Okay. We're back here at the bench, and I mentioned that in the elevator flips, I was noticing that there was a little bit of oscillation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into expert menu and elevator again. Oop, gotta get to expert, there we go. Okay, so we've set our eye gain to 120. There's no bounce and there's no bad tendencies there in terms of overall control feel or anything. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and leave D gain the same. That's not a parameter that you're really gonna need to adjust too much. Head response, same thing. For this size helicopter, head response is fine. On the smaller, like 450s, you might have to lower it a little bit. AVCS damp is a number that probably you won't have to change much. Control feel, same. A lot of these you're not gonna have to really adjust. Here, we'll talk about this a little bit later. Angular rate is our flip and roll speed. Okay, so we'll scroll to CNT gain, control gain, and this has two sides, A and B, and it changes with the input of the axis that you're adjusting. So in this case, like I said, during flips, with full up elevator, I was noticing a little bit of high gain. So what I'm going to do is just back this down from 35 to 30 on both sides, and exit and try that, and that should get rid of those oscillations. I'm not going to turn it up any higher because that's obviously, if you get it too high, it could cause a boom strike. So we'll just go lower, and you'll notice the oscillations. On most helicopters, it should be fine. Stock numbers. Okay, so I've loaded those control gains, and you're going to see that. One of the reasons why the control gain is actually separate from the overall gain is that's what now lets us get really good heading hold performance and turn the gain up as high as we can. Because say it's oscillating in a flip, we can now adjust that out. So, go ahead and do that same test, go in and enter into a flip. You can see how smooth that is now. There's no oscillations through anything. So now I can sit here and pull. Oh, actually there's some oscillations in the rolls. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is land and do the same change to the ailerons. Okay, so I've lowered the aileron control gain now as well. So go ahead and test that. Now one thing, as you lower the control gains, you're gonna start to notice that the model becomes a lot more fluid and a lot more natural feeling. If the control gains are too high, the helicopter's gonna feel notchy. It'll even be easier to hover and everything like that. When the control gains are high, you're gonna get that notchy feel and the oscillation. Now if you have too low control gains, it will not hold your rate consistent. So keep that in mind when setting it. So, oh yeah, there we go, that's nice. You can see how much effortless this is to do rolls and stuff with this model now, because it's not oscillating and it's not disturbing the elevator as much and things like that. And now one thing we're gonna talk about, this is the first time I've actually hit full aileron stick in flying this. So now we're at full elevator. We're checking the angular rate. Now I talked about in the video how you don't actually use, okay, yeah, see, so that's a little fast for me. So what I'm gonna do is land, and we'll go to the bench and I'll explain what we're gonna do, how to adjust the control rates. Okay, so now that we've got all the gains adjusted and in flight we're not getting any sort of weird oscillations or bobbles, we can start tuning the helicopter for feel. So I'm gonna go ahead and light the screen up here. And first we'll do elevator. In the bench setup, I mentioned that now the AFRs for the swash plate no longer adjust the control rates. Those we actually want to set between 8 and 10 degrees. And I said that there was a parameter we're going to use to control now the rates that we want to have. So we're going to go into the expert menu again, and we're looking for a parameter called angular rate. ANG rate. And as you deflect your stick, run over, there we go. It's actually calculating and trying to hold that rate from your stick input. That's why this new firmware flies so good, because it's always monitoring your control rates. So what you saw fly there was 300 degrees a second. And what would be pretty interesting is actually there's also a monitor on this on the home screen that shows you your max angular rate. So when we were testing this firmware, what I was actually doing is going in and setting an angular rate and then watching the angular rate measurement on the monitor. And you would be very surprised that it's within 2 or 3 degrees per second of this angular rate on the screen. So for me that was a little high, and since I've been flying the Raptor a little bit with this 750, I know that 282 is my preferred angular rate. So I'm going to go into both aileron and elevator and adjust that angular rate down to 280. Now this can be adjusted independently, so your ailerons can be a different speed than your elevator or anything like that. That's no big deal. Okay, 282 is the closest. That's what it calculates at. So the next parameter I'm going to go through is I can't really show you guys this because it's a feel thing, but it's the exponential in the 750. In my honest opinion, I would not mess with this expo too much. If you need expo, or if you need any sort of, even speeding it up, say it's not sensitive enough for you, but your total control rate is good, I wouldn't adjust it in the 750, I would do it in your transmitter. And the reason why is the exponential in here is meant to match the next parameters behind it, the aileron delay in and the aileron delay out. And this is what we were talking about when we were talking about changing flight modes. This is in flight mode 3, and that exponential is matched to make these delays in and outs so everything feels, it has a natural feel. And this is what the factory set it at. If you go to flight mode 5, you'll notice the expos change and the delay in and outs also change. So these numbers here, you don't want to pay too much attention to, because if you decide you like flight mode 4, the feel of that, I would play with that before you adjust any of these. Okay, so back at the bench, I set the angular rates to 280, which is just my personal preference. But I thought we'd kind of do something cool. I went ahead and left the elevator at 280. Which the stock is 300 in flight mode 3. But on the ailerons, I went ahead and turned the angular rate down to 160. So this will just show you just how good this rate holding works. I'm at full stick right now. So compared to what it was before, you can see, now watch this, I can climb, I can fall, and no matter what, that rate is always the same. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk out here real quick. And just for the fun of it, turn that angular rate up to like 400 on the ailerons. And now too, in expert mode, you can actually leave it on in the screen, like what I did here. Okay, the highest it'll let it go is 450, so we'll set it there. At this point, it's actually not realistic, because as you start to use a lot of collective pitch and cyclic, it might not be able to hold that. But just stationary here, you can get an idea just how fast this sucker can really roll. Okay, so you can see why that would not be at all, that's not totally functional. Okay, so I went out there and I went in and put the angular rate back down to 280. And so now, put a canopy on here. It's gonna fly a little bit, just kind of give you an idea and point out a couple things that, that this update really helped with. The first one you're gonna notice is when you're really moving the collective fast, how much more stable the nose is. Also, there's been some improvements made to the pirouetting performance, so you'll see those things. You can see here, I can really kind of pump the pitch in pirouettes, and you're not getting any sort of weird interaction or anything like that. The tracking is just unreal. And the batteries are dead, so we'll go ahead and come down. And the ground handling is just superb. There's no more wiggles or wobbles or anything like that on landing. So anyways, that's tuning the CGY750 on the bench and in flight.